The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
What's up, Mark?
Well, we almost have a president.
Almost there.
Elect, excuse me.
We're almost there.
Almost there. Looks like Pennsylvania is down to a 26,000 and change vote lead for the president as we're recording. And Allegheny County with Pittsburgh and Philadelphia County, obviously with Philadelphia, are leading the way for the president with something in, between like 150 or 200,000 votes left to count. Biden's been winning that overwhelmingly to the tune of like 90-10, and even in deep red counties around the state where the president has just absolutely trounced him in in-person same-day voting. They're seeing returns coming in, 60-40, 70-30, sometimes 80-20 for Joe Biden. So it looks like it's only a matter of time before Pennsylvania falls, at which time Joe Biden will conceivably become the president-elect. However, we've got Georgia that is, I think, down to like 2,000.
Virtual tie.
100 and change.
A virtual tie right now.
Yeah, they're both listed at 49.4 the last time I was in front of a TV right.
That is still the
called.
case. That is still the case right now. I talked to you earlier today about this too, because I feel like the last 3 days I've been married to CNN. That's all I've watched the last 3 days. I watched any sports. I didn't watch the game tonight, game tonight, nothing.
At least with the exception of football tonight, there's been no sports to watch because as we breezed right over, my Dodgers won the World Series.
No one cares, Mark, about the Dodgers, okay?
Nobody cares.
Nobody on this call gives a fuck about the Dodgers on this call, okay? Get the hell out of here. Okay, here you go. Congrats. Go ahead, handshake. There you go. Good night. That's it.
No, but we just have to acknowledge that the last time any team won the NBA championship and the World Series in the same year was 1988, done by none other than the Los Angeles Lakers and Los Angeles Dodgers. So that's pretty freaking cool.
The Lakers have knowledge. The Lakers have knowledge always.
It would be the dream if, DK Metcalf suddenly forgets how to play football and Russell Wilson does too, and the Rams could somehow get to the Super Bowl and win. But let's be honest, it's going to be Seahawks Chiefs. So moving right back to the election.
Yeah.
I think it's it can't be overstated, especially if Arizona ends up going the way of Joe Biden. But regardless, the winning of this election, the heavy lifting of this election, was done by black and brown women. Stacey Abrams, really leading that charge. Maricopa County saw a huge Latino turnout, Latinx turnout.
Oh, Stacey Abrams is the MVP. Let's be clear. If Georgia flips blue, she's the MVP. Let's be clear about that now.
Covert and overt racism as well as voter suppression in many instances. We've seen record-shattering turnout across the country in the face of a pandemic, and that is due entirely to black and brown women. Milwaukee, Philly, Atlanta, Phoenix, Detroit, these are real MVPs. And I think, let's, give credit where credit's due, tip of the cap. But I think what needs to be noted is that these cities and some of the injustices and problems that they present and represent need to move to the top of the list in the first 100 days, if for nothing else than to reward them for their hard work in getting Biden and Harris to the position they're in. And in the same breath, fuck every single white person I know and those I don't who voted for Donald Trump after seeing what they've seen the last 4 years. Choice, Second Amendment, fiscal policy, defense policy, international relations, all of that takes a backseat to basic humanity in an election like this. And the simple truth is that Donald Trump is completely morally bankrupt. And if you didn't fully understand what a con artist and a loser and a coward and a bully he was in 2016 if you got hoodwinked. I'll let you have that one. But tell me what in the last 4 years leads you to believe that at the very least Donald Trump doesn't welcome the support of white supremacists.
Well, I can answer that question for you quick. I can answer that question for you quick, though. I mean, I've had a discussion. You know, I'm definitely more rational than a lot of folks about this. I vote for Biden, obviously, but I can tell you where people justify voting for him again. You know, obviously the judge. If you're a conservative, the judges are obviously a big talking point. You know, the tax cuts. You know, this just you know, all the conservative leanings. I get all that. Yeah,
I get all the rationales. I've heard them. I'm just saying it all takes a back seat to his complete basic lack of humanity.
Right, and I get that.
Kids in cages, good people on both sides, stand back and stand by.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again. The president doesn't. The presidency reveals your character. It doesn't. It doesn't change your character. President Obama's talked about that. Numerous like presidential biographers like Doris Kearns Goodwin and other historians like John. God, I'm blanking on his name right now. Soul of America. John Meacham. You know, people like that. They've all talked at length about how the presidency reveals your character. It doesn't change your character. And Donald Trump has revealed time and time and time again when pressed that even if he himself is not a white supremacist, he welcomes their support with gusto. He has cost the American populace 230,000 lives, at least half of which can be easily and demonstrably proven to have been prevented. All of your judges and your gun rights and your tax cuts and all of that has to take a back seat to these like basic humanitarian issues.
Well, you would say logically. You would say logically that would be the case, but you know, I guess what we're learning in this election is
I think what this election is really important to show is that you and I are of a generation that we were sort of the last of the post-World War II baby boom, Cold War, Star-Spangled American exceptionalism generation, where we really bought into sort of the stars at the altar of the Stars and Stripes and Uncle Sam. And I think there was a lot of revere and deference to that, to sort of that mythic figure. However, it's painfully apparent that despite moments of valor and leadership and foresight and brilliance, we are a country that for 400 years, from our very founding in 1619, of where this central struggle of race and racial animus and using middle class suburban white women, non-college educated white men, whatever fucking political buzzword you want to give, there's this group of people that for 500 years throughout the history of the West has been used to wield colonizer interests against the colonized, and whether that be indigenous people or black people or gay people or Latinx people, undocumented people, all whatever that is, this racial animus, this misdirection of white supremacy has been present throughout, and this election reveals that probably more than any in recent history. And we need to start reconciling with that, and that starts with people like me,
right,
calling out other people who look like me.
So that's the fascinating thing with this whole election too. You look at the returns, obviously. Like this is by far the more people, when this is all said and done, more people would have voted in this election than anyone else. Okay, Joe Biden already is the most voted for president in history, voted for candidate in history of America, without question.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, and yet I am so this election is so fascinating in so many reasons. There's so much to unpack for this election. I am so fascinated at the data dump of this when it's all said and done. Like all the data of this, who voted what, how much support, what did Biden get his uptick from, what did Trump get his uptick from? Because in an era of COVID, it is quite fascinating that in the era of COVID that we got this kind of turnout, and obviously mail-in ballots was a big deal, and it's something to look at in the future. I mean, there's a lot of talk on both sides whether mail-in ballots are legit or not. Obviously, it's legit in my opinion. I mean, people on the Trump side trying to scream
voter
fraud.
Let's disabuse ourselves for the purposes of our discussion, and just let everyone understand who listens to the show that you and I operate under the assumption or umbrella of a few basic truths. One of those, principally, most importantly, is that voter fraud is not a fucking thing. Like, it doesn't exist.
It's not rampant. In other words, it's not rampant. Is it possible that one person might vote?
Yes, of course.
250. Yes.
However, in going back to the 2012 election of like 600 million votes cast and change, there's like 45 occurrences of voter fraud. So
it ain't swinging an election.
When you work it out to be a percentage, it's literally a number so small that it extends beyond the extent, it extends beyond the limits of most calculator screens. When you talk about like the frequency of voter fraud, the Republicans in Congress and in the White House have commissioned numerous investigations into this notion of rampant voter fraud. Every single one of them, looking at you, Devin Nunes, has come up fucking empty. So, mail-in balloting is safe. Mail-in balloting is reliable. Mail-in balloting makes a ton of fucking sense during a pandemic. However, 2020 may prove to, when the data is crunched, obviously there's going to be a lot of mistakes made in mail-in balloting. Well, let's look at why that is. Well, maybe it's because the president appointed a lobbyist who was unqualified, who'd never worked in an appropriate, logistical management position to be the postmaster general, and then subsequently defunded the agency and kneecapped their ability to do the very work of processing millions of mail-in ballots
and the work that the
during a pandemic.
And the same supporters are complaining about that, although the president's the one that made that possible. Well, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, if you're mad that some poor sucker who makes $42,000 a year working insane hours at the post office is working to process these mail-in ballots on crazy hours, and this person makes a mistake, well, maybe if they had properly funded the Postal Service and allowed them to build out their infrastructures in a way that was, able to withstand the influx of mail-in balloting that was obvious to any person with a functioning cerebrum during a pandemic that we were going to experience. So, when you talk about, oh, well, there's mistakes or somebody did this or these ballots got lost, it's like, okay, that may have happened, and you're right, that's a problem. But why did that problem happen? Well, because Donald Trump defunded the agency, and somebody that he appointed did away with 5 of their counting machines 2 months before the election. Sorting machines 2 months before the election.
No.
Maybe ballots wouldn't be lost if the California Republican Party wasn't able to get away with putting phony ballot boxes all over the state to trick people.
And that's the thing. Excuse me. I'm actually in discussions with a lot of people on the Trump side who are bitching and complaining about, why are votes being counted after the election, this and that. Not understanding the nature of the situation. Like
this is how this has always worked. It's prescribed in the Constitution. I mean, I know you know this. I'm making the obvious
right, of course,
point interrupting for a function.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Call it our first take, our first take vibe.
Right, of course, yeah. No, but seriously, it's one of those things where I'm in rabbit hole discussions with people who don't understand how this works. One of the things that came up a couple days ago was, how is that Wisconsin has more registered voters than actually registered? And I'm like, well, you do understand that you're allowed to register the day of the election. Obviously, they don't have all numbers posted immediately, but at some point they'll be up there.
Exactly. It's going to take them time to reconcile what was available on the internet and published from, say, the Wisconsin Secretary of State's office or whoever the hell administers their elections there. It obviously makes sense that, if it's a state, for example, that has Sunday registration, that those numbers aren't going to necessarily align. All the responsible journalists and board operator people, big board operator people have been saying that literally the entire fucking time. These numbers may dance. These numbers are going to move. This is why.
They were warned.
This is the reason behind it. This is who we're talking to. We won't know until, this information is readily available. So if you're only watching Fox News or OAN or following the Twitter stream of Candace Owens and, Charlie Kirk, I'm sorry that you're not getting good information, but it's readily fucking available.
Get out the bubble. Get out the bubble. Get out the bubble.
You're choosing to put your head in the sand, and I really don't have time for your shit. People are dying by the day. As we're having this conversation and talking about, stupid little logistical things in the election, we are flying past our daily case diagnosis rates of COVID-19. The disease has officially killed more people than took Americans in World War II.
Oh, wait. It's November 6th now. It's over. It's over, Mark. November 6th. It's over. After the election's over.
Yeah. You know what? Tell that to black and brown people who are disproportionate. I'm not lecturing you on this. I'm making the obvious point.
Of course. Yeah.
Tell that to black and brown people who are disproportionately dying at a higher rate or, around the country from COVID because of lack of access to health care, preventative care, and all the things we talk about all the fucking time. Stop. Just stop. People are dying. I am very involved with BLM LA and other, peripheral protesters, journalists, photographers, what have you, connected to the specific cause of police violence and in Los Angeles. And, police are out of control. The Department of Justice is ceding their responsibility. Every National Intelligence Agency and Criminal Investigative Agency and private think tank and legal center, policy center, who researches this topic says that white nationalist terror, white supremacist terror is the most significant terror threat we face in the nation today. William Barr and the Justice Department and subsequently local police departments empowered by their leadership are killing people in the streets by the hundreds, by the dozens, city to city. There is no justice. And in LA, Black Lives Matter LA has been out there every week chanting Jackie Lacey must go, raising awareness.
She lost, right?
People register to vote.
And she lost, right?
You're fucking right. She did.
Good job.
By a big margin. So we got George Gascon, who, now, mind you, I don't live within the city limits of Los Angeles, so excuse me for not knowing every single provision of these measures, but I know that I was involved and I was out there trying to help for the last several months. However, not only did Jackie Lacey's ass get fired, the former San Francisco DA, George Gascon, is coming to Los Angeles. He has, pretty firmly committed to prosecuting killer cops and reviewing cases and doing the things that the DA is supposed to do when people get killed in the street. And there are readily available coroner's reports of people getting shot in the back and body cam footage of people getting shot while fleeing. And, the information is there. And in 8 years of Jackie Lacey's tenure, there have been no prosecutions of any cops. And I think there's been maybe 1 or 2 terminations, but and for, just like in Louisville with Breonna Taylor, it's like they got fired for other shit. It wasn't actually for taking a black life. And so through the work of really incredible people like for example, Laura Peterson, the woman I worked with, I volunteered for, who put together the Say Their Names LA protest graveyard, and Black Lives Matter LA, and Kendrick Sampson and his company Bold Power, and countless others. Jackie Lee's ass got fired. Measure J got passed. So citizen review and a whole bunch of other police reform measures are coming. And the community is activated. Don't think when the election stops that the actions are going to stop. Joe Biden and Senator Harris, hopefully Vice President-elect Harris, are going to have their fucking feet held to the fire by these communities. And I am making a call to all the people who look like me to get your fucking ass in the game. Black and brown people have been pointing to these problems for 400 years.
But here's the problem, though. Here's going to be the issue. Here's going to be the issue, though, and this is where the elections kind of sort of like tilted. We didn't get the total repudiation of Trump because the GOP held seats. The GOP held seats, and therefore, whether or not you consider that far left politics or not, it's going to be very challenging to really make that a broad issue across the aisle unless they really truly are. Well, and I say they, I mean Republicans are really ready to embrace, at least looking at injustice across the board in a real way.
Look, I think the information is there. The communities are there. They're open, they're inviting, they're welcoming, and they've been there for a long time pointing to these things, whether it be the LGBTQ community, the Black community, the feminist movement, but they've got all kinds of problematic shit with intersectionality, so we kind of put them on, second tier. But my point being is it's time for fucking white people to say enough is enough with white supremacy, systemic white supremacy in all of its forms, whether it be cross-lighting or, more subtle shit like not getting cabs or home loans. White folks have to speak up and speak out and get in the fucking game. And defend your neighbors. And so it starts with people who are paying attention, who know this stuff, to, look, people got to get canceled. And I know we talk about cancel culture being a stupid thing, but for example, I posted something that was pretty inflammatory on my Instagram the other day. I know you saw it because I can see these things.
Of course it is.
It was the polling numbers that showed how white people voted. Despite the fact that voter turnout was up across the board, we knew people of every category were going to vote for Trump more than they did before because voter turnout was up across the board. Anyhow, by percentage, by share, by pie chart, white people voted for Trump more this time than they did last time. That's appalling. And I've listened to enough podcasts that have come out over the last couple of days, listening to people like, Brittany Packnett Cunningham and Tiffany Cross and Jamel Hill and Angela Rye and others who have all, I think, kind of let out a collective eye roll, like, fuck you expect. And I've over the last year in particular, and in the last few months since George Floyd, I've just become a lot more attuned and sympathetic and empathetic to that just sort of collective exhaustion that I see in the community. And so, for example, I posted that saying, basically, fuck every white person who follows me that voted for Donald Trump.
Ooh, I saw one of the text you sent me. It was one of your friends. That was pretty deep shit.
I had the one that I sent you the screenshots of was a friend. I'm not gonna name names or anything.
No,
but it was a friend of mine. I've been friends. Yeah, and he reached out to me and he was like, kind of like, why'd you say this? And I'm like, look, I thought about you, and this is shit that this goes beyond a difference in political views. It's a difference in morality. And with him, I was very careful and sensitive because this is somebody I've been friends with for going on 25 years, and I value this friendship. But one of the things I said to him, and I've said in much saltier terms to other people, including a cousin of mine and others who have messaged me about it, is basically I said what I said. The information is there. The
Right.
proof is there. The tape
Right.
is there. Like, if you can't get with the fucking program and see that this guy is George Wallace, Strom Thurmond, dare I say Hitler, Mussolini, like, if you can't see that by now, I don't fuck with you.
It's pretty bold. All right, so I got 5 minutes left because I got my son in my arm right now.
Right.
I wanted to talk to you quickly about the President of the United States, Donald Trump, and I'm assuming you didn't see much of the press conference earlier today because you texted me.
MSNBC.
Yeah.
I was watching MSNBC because that's what I do, hanging out over here on the communist wing of the party. And Brian Williams and the control room at MSNBC cut away from the president's press conference about like 4 lines in when he started talking about legal votes and illegal votes, and they made an editorial decision to say, we're not going to broadcast shit on our airwaves and then have to try to explain it. We're just going to tell you that the president is lying, and we'll recap it for you later. And if you'd like to watch the president lie to you, you can do that on another network. So
wow.
I kind of, for all the shit that they get rightfully from people like Soledad O'Brien, who is like the best flamethrower of media criticism.
Oh, she's sick.
Internet.
She is sick. Yes.
God, she is like one of my favorite internet journalism aunties. Like, she is just brilliant. You
and these aunties, dude. How many aunties do you have now?
Well, okay, so I had
Carmela?
a lot of aunts growing up, so like they represented different parts of my upbringing, and so people that I look to who are sources of great education and wisdom and guidance, whether I know them or not.
The answer is many.
They're my adopted.
The answer is many. Then many aunties.
Oh no, I've got dozens.
Oh my Lord, you greedy man! You look. Bottom line with Donald Trump, it was on brand for what he did. It's a disgrace. I was disgusted.
The whole thing has been despotic, autocratic, neo-fascistic, whatever fancy term you want to throw around. It's gross.
When the Mark, when the New York Post says you're lying and you're out of line, it's a problem.
How bad was that?
Yes.
How bad was that?
Even my Republican buddies were saying, this is out of step. Sorry, hate to break it to you.
No, it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time before the Republican leadership they're just waiting for a moment to have enough air cover to finally bail on the Trump ship and pretend like they didn't,
It's arrived. It's arrived. This election's over. He's going to lose his election.
No, I know. I'm just saying, the real cowards of the party haven't started, turning on Trump yet. So call me when they do.
Well, that's the funny thing, too, now, because the party is kind of still stabilized. I'm really curious now, assuming this holds up. Trump's out in January. The Senate holds the GOP.
Yeah,
they actually gained seats in the House.
Midterms are going to be really important.
They actually gained seats in the House. So I'm really curious now. I've been saying this to you for the course of the last couple of months prior to this election. Because there's a lot of people, there's a lot of Republicans I really believe. They side with Trump because it's in their best interest based on the party and based on alienation. That now, now Trump is gone, now that the oxygen room is now gone, is it possible we could have relatively normal government again? That's what I want to see.
Well,
I'm curious.
I think that's the goal. I think, look, Joe Biden is running on a platform of sort of just returning basic human decency, trying to repair relationships.
Restoration.
This isn't a victory. It's finally gaining control of a wildfire.
It's a reset.
Burned. Yeah. This is not. I mean, there's a moment to exhale here and be happy that the nightmare is potentially coming to an end. But it's not a moment to rest by any stretch.
Of course not. Yeah,
Tiffany
of course
Cross
not.
was just talking about this on Jamel Hill's podcast in the last day or two, and saying they need to come in just fucking flamethrowers. You know what? Give DC proper representation in the Senate. That's 2 more right there. Bang. Give Puerto Rico, quit setting up bipartisan commissions that accomplish nothing because Lindsey Graham's an asshole and obstructs everything.
Yeah, that's something he won his election. That's something he won his Jimmy Harrison.
Enough of this shit. Just come in and go, oh, okay, well, you sat back while he dropped 11 fucking executive orders on you. Well, watch me go. I got a pen and a phone too, motherfucker.
My bottom line is this, though. Politically speaking, I think what's happened here, and if you look at the political data right now. I think a lot of Republicans ultimately voted Biden, then went R down ballot.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. I think there's a lot of, kind of in the same way that I held my nose and voted for Hillary Clinton. I think there's a lot of people who fell into that 40% in the middle, who sat out the last election, what have you.
Right.
Yeah, they voted for Biden out of an obvious, the Rick Wilsons of the world, the people who subscribe to the Lincoln Project.
Yeah.
That
Still conservatives.
People.
Still conservatives.
But yeah, and they probably voted for a Republican sheriff and a Republican governor and Republican school board and all those other things. But at least, thank God, they didn't vote for Trump. Like, whoopie fucking do.
This is the way I explain. This is the way I explained to some of my friends earlier. I go, this is what happened here.
This is also why the work isn't done.
Right. This is what basically happened with the Republicans here. Thank you, Trump, for the judges, the tax cuts, and all that. Now go home and fuck yourself.
Yeah. No, we talked throughout the playoffs of the various sports of, jobs not finished, and the Kobe reels run ad nauseum during like the Western Conference Finals and stuff. Same is true here. There is a sense of completion that comes with, conceivably winning this election and then putting an end to this morally bankrupt, corrupt presidency that is just patently irresponsible. And potentially getting a hold on the pandemic and all these very obvious and basic things that you expect a president to do. But by no means does Joe Biden have a great record on the other things we're talking about, on the more progressive things we're talking about.
Of course.
He has good climate plans and things like that. But it's time. We've got, till the midterms, like 12 to 18 months.
2022 is going to be massive. Dude, we got a runoff in Georgia in 2 months. That's huge.
So, people in the same way that they've been texting and phone banking and getting people involved to vote, you need to do the same thing. Stay tuned in to people, to people you respect, people you trust, people who have been good sources of knowledge for you throughout the election. Stay activated, stay protesting, stay mad. And,
absolutely, stay engaged.
And hold your, you gave them your vote, and if they're going to keep it, if they're going to keep their fucking job, they're going to perform on the shit they promised us the last year.
Absolutely.
And, I'm looking at my Congresswoman, Julia Brownley. I've criticized her numerous times on the show. I'm looking at leaders in communities that mean something to me, where I could potentially live and work. And, your days are numbered if your job isn't being done right. The people won't stand for it.
Absolutely.
And for all the people who are casually involved, stay involved.
Anyway, I got to cut it short because my 3-year-old is still awake. We will talk.
You've got parenting and husbanding to do.
Right. What we'll do next, when this election's over, we'll check in again, and we'll actually go a more thorough data dump and figure out what exactly is what and what this means and all that. Because there's a lot to unpack for this election. It really is. So, Mark, we'll talk soon.
No, there's so many different discussions to be had.
Absolutely.
We'll have to do one of our marathon pods or something.
Absolutely. That's coming soon. No, that's coming soon. All right, buddy. Take it easy, okay?
All right. Have a great night.
You too, brother. Take care. You too.